Parishi.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Binda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Binda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacacharya Ashtotar Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol. So thank you everyone for being here for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. I would especially like to thank His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami for being here. I know you're traveling and I got your note. We may have an interruption in Maharaj's association tonight. He's leaving for an airport but we shall struggle through as mightily as we can. It's Wednesday, August 21st, 2024 in New York, and tonight, to the best of my knowledge, we're picking up with Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 2nd chapter, verse number 28. And I'll post that unless there are any corrections from elsewhere. Yes, it appears that we have 28. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I will post our date and verse number, just a moment here. So this verse 28 is being spoken by the sage Brigu as a reaction to the curses from the side of the followers of Lord Shiva, headed by Nandishvara. Bhavavrata dhara yecha tan samanuvrataha pashandinaste bhavantu sachchastra paripantitaha. I'm sorry, sachchastra paripantinaha. We had a little peek at this verse at the beginning at the end of last class, but here, translation: one who takes a vow to satisfy Lord Shiva, or who follows such principles, will certainly become an atheist and be diverted from transcendental scriptural injunctions. Purported is sometimes seen that devotees of Lord Shiva imitate the characteristics of Lord Shiva. For example, Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison, so some of the followers of Lord Shiva imitate him and try to take intoxicants like ganja, marijuana. Here, the curse is that if someone follows such principles, he must become an infidel and turn against the principles of Vedic regulation. It is said that such devotees of Lord Shiva will be sachchastra paripantinaha, which means opposed to the conclusion of Shastra or scripture. This is confirmed in the Padma Purana also. Lord Shiva was ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to preach the impersonal or Mayavada philosophy for a particular purpose, just as Lord Buddha preached the philosophy of voidness for particular purposes mentioned in the Shastras. Sometimes it is necessary to preach a philosophical doctrine which is against the Vedic conclusion. In the Shiva Purana, it is stated that Lord Shiva said to Parvati that in the Kali Yuga, in the body of a Brahmana, he would preach the Mayavada philosophy. Thus it is generally found that the worshippers of Lord Shiva are Mayavadi followers. Lord Shiva himself says, Mayavadam asat shastram. Asat shastra, as explained here, means the doctrine of Mayavada impersonalism, or becoming one with the Supreme. Bhrigu Muni cursed that persons who worshipped Lord Shiva would become followers of this Mayavada Asat Shastra, which attempts to establish that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is impersonal. Besides that, among the worshippers of Lord Shiva, there is a section who live a devilish life. Srimad Bhagavatam and Narada Pancharatra are authorized scriptures that are considered Sat Shastra, or scriptures which lead one to the path of God realization. Asat Shastras are just the opposite. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, Prabhupada gives us some background here in the worship of Lord Shiva, the background into the characteristics, the mental state of those who worship Lord Shiva. Not everyone is the same, but he mentions at least two. One is those who imitates Lord Shiva by taking intoxicants, and the other is those who adhere to an impersonal doctrine of the absolute truth, which is interesting because Lord Shiva himself is certainly not an impersonalist. But sometimes we find that the followers of a particular person, no matter how great that person may be, don't share all the good qualities of the person whom they worship. And that seems to be the case with the way Prabhupada is describing the followers of Lord Shiva here. Shiva himself is described in the Shastras as the greatest Vaishnava. So one may ask then, why would his followers become impersonalists? And then you could say, well, it's because of this curse. Bhrigu Muni said so. He had great Brahmana tejas, and because he said it then, it's true now. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, we'd love to hear from you if you have time to say anything before you depart.
Well, it's not so much a question of time, it's a question of being able to focus while I'm half getting out the door. But Mayavadam Asaj Chastram. Here it's Sach Chastram Paripantana, something like that. Sach Chastram Paripantana. So Sat Shastra and Asat Shastra. So the Shankaracharya is teaching something which is asat, which is not perfectly true, and therefore people get bewildered. I don't think I can add much more than that right now.
All right, thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Just making sure we've got everything posted there. Yeah, it's very interesting. Prabhupada brings up the point that sometimes it's necessary to preach a philosophical doctrine which is against the Vedic conclusion. I don't know of instances besides the ones that he mentions here, but here we have it. Oh, Panchatattva Prabhu is with us. Jai, Hare Krishna. Yes. So we come to text 29, and is Panchatattva Prabhu. If you're available to read, that would be certainly great.
Okay. Where are we?
Sorry, we're in second chapter, the fourth canto. We just read text 28, so our next one would be 29.
Okay, gotcha. I misheard you. I thought you said text 9. I was thinking, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, my apologies. I've been taking care of animals for my daughter and son-in-law while they're away.
Aye.
Keep running back and forth to their mini farm. Nasta saucha mudhadiyo jata basmasti dharinaha vishantu shiva dikshayam yatra daivam surasavam. Those who vow to worship Lord Shiva are so foolish that they imitate him by keeping long hair on their heads. When initiated into worship of Lord Shiva, they prefer to live on wine, flesh, and other such things. Purport. Indulging in wine and meat keeping long hair on one's head, not bathing daily, and smoking ganja or marijuana are some of the habits which are accepted by foolish creatures who do not have regulated lives. By such behavior, one becomes devoid of transcendental knowledge. In the initiation into the Shiva mantra, there are mudrikashtaka, in which it is sometimes recommended that one make his sitting place on the vagina and thus desire nirvana or dissolution of existence. In that process of worship, wine is needed, or sometimes in place of wine, palm tree juice, which is converted into an intoxicant. This is also offered according to Shiva Agama, a scripture on the method of worshiping Lord Shiva. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So Brigu continues to speak. It appears that he's setting up for his next curse by mentioning these qualities that he perceives in followers of Lord Shiva. This may, of course, not represent all of the followers of Lord Shiva at all, but we are in the middle of cursing and counter-cursing, so there's a lot of acrimony going on. And here in the purport, Prabhupada describes rather graphically that some of the methods adopted for worshiping Lord Shiva are, well, as described. And there you have it. Nasta saucha, cleanliness being abandoned. Mudadiya, foolish. Jita basma asti dharinaha, wearing long hair, ashes, and bones. I mean, there are some similarities to the latter day or the former hippie days, and actually even into the current times of residents of Kali Yuga, adopting such practices, maybe not the ashes and bones, but certainly wearing long hair and not practicing even a modicum of cleanliness. These things are going on to this day, even in those uninitiated into Shiva worship. I don't think that these statements are representative of all worshipers of Lord Shiva, but they certainly do require describe the pitiful condition of many of the denizens of the age of Kali on this earth planet. It's interesting that these curses and counter curses are going on, however, amongst Prajapati Daksha, the Brahmanas headed by Bhrigu Muni, the followers of Lord Shiva headed by Nandishwara. These are all not, they're not particularly representative of people in this age. These are, qualified persons. So it's kind of interesting to read how slanderous they get in their descriptions of each other. It's actually in one sense, it's a very good warning to us all who lack the qualifications of a Daksha or Bhrigu Muni or an Nandishwara and are trying to proceed on the path of devotional service to reach pure devotional service, to understand that these things go on when the heart is contaminated by modes of nature, and especially by them manifest as pride, pride of one's position, pride of one's compadres, one's brotherhood, whether you're the brotherhood of the Brahmanas or the brotherhood of the demigods or the Prajapatis or the brotherhood of the Shaivites. it's my group against your group. And certainly we see today, in today's society, there's a whole lot of us versus them mentality going on. And even amongst cultured persons, this can be a real problem. So fortunately, we have the guiding light of Trinada Pisunichena, Torora Visahishnanamayana Manadena Kirtanaya Sudahari, that can guide us in the process of chanting Hare Krishna and avoiding thinking that we're so much better than everyone else. I remember reading where Prabhupada was being described, glorified by Nanda Kumar for his purity and his preaching, and Prabhupada replied, I'm the servant of everyone. I'm the lowest. I'm the lowest. And Nanda Kumar could understand that he really meant what he was saying. I am the lowest. I'm the servant of everyone. So if we keep that mentality, we can avoid this sectarian spirit, which goes on even on the planets of the demigods. You have to be very careful. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Since Maharaj is packing, he may not be able to comment.
No, I can comment.
Oh,
Just
please
briefly.
Right.
There's a comment there, or there's a word there. Yatra Daivam Surasavam. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that they worship their intoxicants like a god, and we've seen this in hippie culture, drug culture, that your favorite intoxicant may be regarded as a sacred substance, as a pathway to divinity, and so on. So that's tamagun, in spades, as they say. Yatra Daivam Surasavam. All these other characteristics of ignorance are manifest. Nashta Shocha, the dirty, Mutadiyo, dull, Jata Bhasmasti Dharana, the long hair. If you have long matted hair, then you're somehow or other great. Someplace we read that in Brahma Samhita commentary that Lord Shiva is the divine masculine principle because he impregnates material nature. So then you get these people in the mode of ignorance who think that masculinity consists of being dirty and having and taking intoxicants and having matted hair on your head and so on. Hare Krishna. And now I do have to duck out, I think, in a moment or two at least, and then come back. Thank you, Panchatat. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Thank you, Maharaj. Yes, we have some things in the chat. Anantashesha Prabhu says, in the state I come from, the intoxicant extracted from the coconut trees is called toddy, and it was a common sight to see many toddy shops in the state known for coconut trees. And Praveen Krishna Prabhu says, yes, same for the tall trees in Bengal. Tulsi Priya says then, people who practice these things don't realize that they are opening themselves to subtle malevolent forces and putting themselves in danger. They foolishly think that because something is touted as spiritual, they are safe. There was a devotee who was influenced by a hippie girl to do extremely tamasic things as a form of Mother Earth worship. He later killed himself. I've heard of many more such things amongst the non-devotees. Hare Krishna. So get to know and love your four regulative principles. Hare Krishna. So, coming to verse number 30. Yes, Maharaj mentioned that they worship wine as if it were a devata. This is Srila Vishwanath's commentary. He categorizes the intoxicants there. Sura is liquor made from sugar, grains, and honey. Asava is liquor made from the sap of the tall tree and other plants, as we heard from Praveen Krishna Prabhu. These things are going on. So next we come back to Brigamuni has some more to say. Text number 30. Saraswati Mata, would you like to read text 30? We'll see how your audio goes.
Pranams to all. If there's a problem with the mic, just please let me know.
Sounds good so far.
Text 30. Brahmacha pramanamscheva yadyuyam parinindata setam vidharnam pumsham atapasandam ashritaha. Translation. Bhrigu Muni continued, since you blaspheme the Vedas and the Brahmanas, who are followers of the Vedic principles, it is understood that you have already taken shelter of the doctrine of atheism. Purport. Bhrigu Muni, in cursing Nandishvara, said that not only would they be degraded as atheists because of this curse, but they had already fallen to the standard of atheism because they had blasphemed the Vedas, which are the source of human civilization. Human civilization is based on the qualitative division of social order, namely the intelligent class, the martial class, the productive class, and the labor class. The Vedas provide the right direction for advancing in spiritual cultivation and economic development and regulating the principles of sense gratification so that ultimately one may be liberated from material contamination to his real state of spiritual identification, Aham Brahmasmi. As long as one is in the contamination of material existence, one changes body from the aquatics up to the position of Brahma, but the human form of life is the highest perfectional life in the material world. The Vedas give directions by which to elevate oneself in the next life. The Vedas are the mother for such instructions, and the Brahmanas or persons who are in knowledge of the Vedas are the father. Thus, if one blasphemes the Vedas and the Brahmanas, naturally one goes down to the status of atheism. The exact word used in Sanskrit is nastik, which refers to one who does not believe in the Vedas but manufactures some concocted system of religion. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that the followers of the Buddhist system of religion are Nastiks. In order to establish his doctrine of non-violence, Lord Buddha flatly refused to believe in the Vedas, and thus, later on, Shankaracharya stopped this system of religion in India and forced it to go outside India. Here it is stated, Brahmacha Brahmanan. Brahma means the Veda, Aham Brahmasmi means I am in full knowledge. The Vedic assertion is that one should think that he is Brahman, for actually he is Brahman. If Brahma or the Vedic spiritual science is condemned, and the masters of the spiritual science, the Brahmanas, are condemned, then where does human civilization stand? Bhrigu Muni said, it is not due to my cursing that you shall become atheists. You are already situated in the principle of atheism. Therefore you are condemned. Om Gyanantimirindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So Bhrigu Muni in his counter curse is claiming that despite his giving this curse, they're already situated in the principles of atheism because they have already created chaos in the spiritual order of dividing the human society into the 4 divisions, which is absolutely necessary in terms of every member on each division being able to make progress in the human form of life. Earlier I was reading in the Caitanya-caritamrta how the Lord is so kind that he incarnates in every species of life. But the greatest benediction that the Lord can bestow is for those who are in the human form of life, and how this division of the social order is absolutely essential so that everyone is given an opportunity to make spiritual progress. And with all this cursing and counter cursing that is going on, it's all counterproductive to this mission of gaining spiritual knowledge and finally getting out of this material conditioning and being reinstated in our original eternal position as servitor of Krishna. So all these curses and counter curses is actually, the effect is it's going in the opposite direction to what the mission is. And one of the things, what was it that I was just thinking? We've read a lot about Lord Shiva and how some followers adopt this way of living, which is completely opposite to what the Vedas direct. But Lord Shiva, I was reading something really interesting in what he had said. He had said, Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur, Aradhanam param. He said that the supreme mission for everyone is to worship only Vishnu. So we do, of course, know that Lord Shiva has he's a founder of one of the Vaishnava Sampradayas. So there seems to be there's two sorts of followers, and one is completely following the dharma of Vaishnavism, which for which he is the founder, and of course his teachings are all centered around worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so here we've read about how some followers, smoking ganja and of course not really following the regulative principles set down for the Vedas. Another interesting thing, I hope I'm not diverting too much from the main topic, but I found this so interesting, is how in the Caitanya-caritamrta they were describing this Krishna and of course all the pure devotees and everyone that resides in the spiritual world. And even if they are in the material world, but they're actually pure devotees and living in the consciousness of the spiritual world, which is called the Vishuddha Sattvam, which is the fourth dimension, the Turiya platform. And it was describing how Vishuddha Sattva, this pure goodness, this internal energy that is really divided into three ways: the Sandhini Shakti, the Samvit, and the Ladini. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Samvit, because it says that that's the transcendental potency by which Krishna allows others to know him. And one of the ways, the beginning way in which we can have knowledge of Krishna is if we agree to follow the directions of the Vedas. That's how we can get permission from Krishna to gradually know him. As we surrender, so he will provide the knowledge by which we can know him. So if the Vedas are not followed, then automatically this clear knowledge that we can obtain about Krishna and how to approach Krishna and what to do through the guidance of a spiritual master, that all our activities can ultimately be geared towards pleasing Krishna. That is the only mission that we're supposed to have. Nate vidu svartha gatim hi Vishnum. One's sole activity, endeavor, efforts, all of that should be geared to satisfying Krishna. And if we are not able to achieve that, then it's all sort of useless activity, because it can't give you the ultimate goal of having love of Krishna and having the service, pure service of Krishna. So these are just some of my thoughts. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so very much. I just wanted to read, it's very short, but Srila Vishwanath underscores what both you and Srila Prabhupada are saying here. The verse and purport are rather brief. The Vedas, which were followed previously, and wait, no, I'm a verse ahead of myself. Because you criticize the Vedas and the Brahmanas, which act as the institution to support mankind, you will take shelter of heretical views. And then in the commentary, Brahma means Vedas. The Brahmanas are the teachers of the Vedas. They are the institution which supports men who are following the correct path. So thank you again for your own words.
I was actually going to mention this verse from Bhagavad Gita. Ye shastra vidim utsrajya vartate kama kartaha nasa siddhim avopnoti nasukham na param gatim. So it's really one who is not following the injunctions of the Shastra and, doing whatever they want to do willy-nilly without consulting the Shastras, they will never achieve the perfection of life, which is to have love of Krishna, and neither they will have no happiness, basically nothing. They'll be just be embroiled with material conditioning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well said. And we're at now half of the hour, and Madhupati Prabhu is with us. So I was going to see whether he's available to read our next text, which is text number 31, has a sizable purport. But since you're here, we'd love to hear from you, Prabhu, if you can read. But if not, Ross Prabhu, would you like to read our text 31? Are you set up to be able to read? Okay, we'll come back to you. Hare Krishna. I'll start it off and then we'll see how far we get because it's a long purport. We'll pause in between paragraphs. So 31. Esha eva hilokanam shiva panta sanatana yang purve chanusantastur yat pramanam janardanaha. So this is Brigamuni going on here. The Vedas give the eternal regulative principles for auspicious advancement in human civilization, which have been rigidly followed in the past. The strong evidence of this principle is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is called Janardana, the well-wisher of all living entities. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has claimed that he is the father of all living entities, regardless of form. There are 8,400,000 different species of life forms, and Lord Krishna claims that he is the father of all. Because the living entities are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are all sons of the Lord, and for their benefit, because they are hovering under the impression that they can lord it over material nature, the Vedas are given to them for their guidance. Therefore, the Vedas are called Apaurushaya, for they are not written by any man or demigod, including the first living creature, Brahma. Brahma is not the creator or author of the Vedas. He is also one of the living beings in this material world. Therefore, he does not have the power to write or speak the Vedas independently. Every living entity within this material world is subject to 4 deficiencies. He commits mistakes, he accepts one thing for another, he cheats, and he has imperfect senses. The Vedas, however, are not written by any living creature within this material world. Therefore, they are said to be Apaurushaya. No one can trace out the history of the Vedas. Of course, modern human civilization has no chronological history of the world or the universe, and it cannot present actual historical facts older than 3,000 years. But no one has traced out when the Vedas were written, because they were never written by any living being within this material world. All other systems of knowledge are defective, because they have been written or spoken by men or demigods who are products of this material creation. But Bhagavad Gita is Apaurushaya, for it was not spoken by any human being or any demigod of this material creation. It was spoken by Lord Krishna, who is beyond the material creation. That is accepted by such stalwart scholars as Shankaracharya, not to speak of other acharyas such as Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya. Shankaracharya has accepted that Narayan and Krishna are transcendental, and in Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna has established Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam pravartate. I am the origin of everything. Everything emanates from me. This material creation, including Brahma and Shiva and all the demigods, has been created by him, for everything has emanated from him. He also says that the purpose of all the Vedas is to understand him. Vedaischa sarvairaham eva vedyaha. He is the original Veda-vit, or knower of the Vedas, and Vedanta-krit, or compiler of Vedanta. Brahma is not the compiler of the Vedas. I was listening to a seminar by Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu where he's speaking on this very point, that the Vedas are co-eternal with the Supreme Lord. So it's not at all like the modern conception of authorship, that, oh, this dates to such and such BC and such author. These predate everything. And that's part of the premise on which our whole philosophy is based, that we see here in front of us this material creation with all its various species of living beings, and we look back as far as our archaeological tools can dig. That's at least the modern way of searching into the past. But even so, you can't go very far back. But that's why Prabhupada is so clear on this point, that if you want to know who your mother is, if you want to know who your father is, you ask your mother, because she is the authority. She knows, at least in the ordinary course of affairs. She will tell you, and that way you'll have knowledge. But these things existed before we existed, before the world existed. And you have to say something existed. It's only logical. And the Vedas are very clear on this point. Yes, beyond this material world, there's Narayan, there's Krishna. Everything emanates from me. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Praveen Krishna Prabhu quotes, I don't know this source, but Veda pranihito dharmo. Hyadharmas tad viparyayaha. Vedo narayanaha sakshat svayambhur iti sushuma. Oh, maybe 6th canto. The Yamadutas replied, that which is prescribed in the Vedas constitutes dharma, the religious principles, and the opposite of that is irreligion. The Vedas are directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, and are self-born. This we have heard from Yamaraj. Thank you for that. Yes, I'm guessing that's 6th canto. And I'd like to read something. This is from an article that we were reading this morning with Ravindra Prabhu. This is an article that he had written in 1986 for, it was a congress of studying the synthesis of science and religion. And this brings up the point of how we accept knowledge. Here, it's very clear, and in the Shastras, it's very clear. Everything emanates from me, and the Vedas are co-eternal with Krishna, so the Vedas are Krishna. As he says here, the Vedas are directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in the present historical context, we accept things in a different way. And this is what I wanted to read from this article. The modern West has been formed by secularization, that process which has sought to convey more and more natural and human territory from the jurisdiction of the divine and annex it firmly to the sovereign operation of autonomous human reason and enterprise. In other words, people become more and more faithless as time goes on in Kali Yuga. And so they want to more and more divorce themselves from any mention or thought of God or a divine origin of things, something beyond, much greater and beyond ourselves, and try to understand and explain, or at least think that we can understand and explain everything in terms of what our own limited bodies and minds can dig up or speculate about. Yes. But that really makes life increasingly hellish, as we are finding. Saraswati Mata comments here, the offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord, in blaspheming devotees, such as Lord Shiva and the Vedic scriptures already committed by both parties here. Yes. Yes. Is there more that you wanted to say on that? That's more of a comment than a question. You're just pointing that out, that these parties who are doing the cursing and counter cursing are not respecting this particular avoidance of offense.
Yes, just to highlight that that both parties are equally guilty.
Yeah, yeah. And also going back to the way that Prabhupada speaks at the point in the verse under discussion right now, talking about Dharma. This morning, the definition of Dharma came up in a different way. Dharma denotes a way or form of life that possesses its own integrity and validity by virtue of being centered on truth. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because it's such a nice article. We'll go on into purport. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is established, Tene Brahmahrida, the Supreme Absolute Truth, the Personality of Godhead, instructed Brahma in the Vedic knowledge through his heart. Therefore, the evidence that Vedic knowledge is free from the defects of mistakes, illusions, cheating, and imperfection is that it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana, and has thus been followed from time immemorial, beginning from Brahma. The Vedic religion, or the principles of the Vedas, have been followed by the highly cultured population of India since time immemorial. No one can trace out the history of Vedic religion. Therefore, it is Sanatana, and any blasphemy against the Vedas is calculated to be atheism. The Vedas are described as Setu, which means a bridge. If one wants to attain his spiritual existence, one has to cross an ocean of nescience. The Vedas are the bridge by which to cross such a great ocean. That's a lovely way to look at the concept of bridge preaching. The Vedas are the bridge, the Setu, by which one can cross to the spiritual world. Okay, I will provide a link in the chat here to that lovely article by Vinder Swarup Prabhu in just a moment here. We have some more. It's a long purport. Panchatattva Prabhu, would you like to read the next paragraph that starts with the Vedas describe how to divide the human race?
Sure. First, I'd like to refer to briefly, I hope it's brief, to the Sri Tattva Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami is presented with commentary and translation by Gopi Puranadana Das. He really does a wonderful job presenting Jiva Goswami's assertion that the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Puranas and the Itihasas are part of the Vedas, and not some separate or lesser category. They're all Vedic texts. In fact, they are meant, especially for this age, so that persons who can't study the hundreds of thousands of Vedic of the Vedas texts themselves can understand the actual meaning and import of the Vedic literature as a whole. And there's a couple of things he says there that are in his commentary on Jiva Goswami's writings that are really interesting. Just quickly. First, he, in this commentary, establishes the Shabda Praman of the Vedas is aparosheya, not created by any mortal being, and the Shrutis, the Vedic Shrutis, are considered aparosheya because they are co-eternal with the absolute truth, and so were not authored by anyone at any time. Authentic scriptures of various cultures reveal aspects of the supreme intelligence, but among them, the Vedic literature distinguishes itself by its scope of conception. The Vedas and their supplements offer a great variety of approaches to the absolute, for people in different situations in life and on different levels of spiritual development. The Vedic literature includes thousands of separate texts, yet when the whole is carefully studied and compared, it proves consistent. Many generations of reputable discriminating brahmanas have been satisfied to direct their lives according to Vedic authority, not merely because their parents did so, but because these brahmanas have experienced for themselves the practical benefit. By living according to the Vedic standards of self-control in body and mind, one becomes peaceful and clear-headed, fit to understand the highest purposes of life. And then there's another quick section I'd like to mention, because another thing they like that mundane scholars like to attack the Vedas on, saying, well, they must be coming from different sources because of the way they're presented and the different forms of language they're presented. Gopi Pranadhana addresses it here very, very wonderfully. It says, because the Vedic sound directly emanates from the intelligence of the Supreme Being, all the Vedas and their numerous supplements form a unified whole. They are expressions of the same consciousness. The infinite intelligence of the Supreme communicates in many different ways with the variously limited intelligence of his countless creatures. In the words of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Ye yata mam prapadyante tangs tataiva bhajamyaham. I reciprocate with each soul in exact response to how that soul relates to me, unquote. Thus, the Vedic literature appears to consist of many separate books with numerous categories of texts, which seem to have been written at different times for different purposes in different styles of language and by authors with different convictions and different levels of knowledge. But the Vedas explain themselves in another way. And if we are willing to look at the entire Vedic literature from its own point of view, rather than from a foreign critical viewpoint, then with some scrutiny, we can see the true picture. The apparent diversity of the texts is due not to their being written by different authors, but to their being intended for several different audiences. Anyway, it goes on from there, and it's just delightful reading.
Yes,
Right.
yes, it is. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Maharaj, did you have anything you'd like to add now that you're in a properly moving vehicle?
No, it's wonderful to hear from Jiva Goswami.
Thank you. Saraswati Mata says, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stated that only the Bhagavat Dharma, which aims at solely executing pure loving service, bhakti, to Krishna, is real Dharma. Other religions are cheating religion if they do not aim for this, because it is then contaminated with material nature and sense gratification. Thank you. And Panchatattva Prabhu, your hand is still raised. Do you have
Sorry.
more to say?
I'll drop that hand.
Okay.
Did you want me to read, or should someone else read, since I spent my time?
Well, either way, it's nectar to hear from you. But I'm thinking now it's maybe we should pause because we've only got 5 minutes to the top of the hour, and it'd be nice to come back to this long purport again afresh. Yeah, let's do that. And if you like, you can either appoint a kirtan leader or take the post yourself as you see fit.
Who wants to lead kirtan? Who wants to lead kirtan? Please step forward.
That trick never works.
I'm trying. Tulsi Priya, Dana, Ross, Shraddha, Praveen, Pratipurna, Madhavi, somebody.
Okay, I will try.
Okay. Thank you.
My apologies. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. Thank you.
Jai, thank you so much. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Satashri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much for the Kirtan, Dana, and thank you, Panchatattva Prabhu, for reading from Sri Tattva Sandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami, as presented by His Grace Gopi Pranadana Prabhu.
That whole purport that I read a selection from is just so comprehensive. I barely touched it. I just had to read part of it because it made me so ecstatic reading it. It's wonderful.
Thank you. And especially thank you, Maharaj, for being with us in all conditions of life, whether here, there, or everywhere. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Srimad
Ken.
Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Ideal sannyasi, ideal spiritual master, ideal Vaishnava. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank Thank you, Dana. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Yeah.